I want to say, Madam Speaker, that 40% of the island has been impacted from an economic perspective. It means that the other 60% of the island must double our economic output. Fields destroyed in St. Elizabeth, in Manchester, in Westmoreland must be replaced by fields brought into production in St. Thomas, in St. Mary, in Clarendon, in St. Catherine. The other half of the island that is not impacted, we must increase our output. Madam Speaker, this is a good point for me to say that there is a notion emerging that somehow we are getting a lot of aid and there's a lot of money coming in. Yes, we have made provisions, but all of that is temporary. And at some point, all of that will dry up. And the government must be able to stand on its own 2 feet. And manage its finances, because while we intend to ensure that the relief phase is efficiently conducted, the recovery phase might be extended. And therefore, with not just the loss of physical assets, but the requirement to spend on increased social safety net, vulnerable, welfare and social support, we will have to have the revenues to support it.
Now, politics seems to runs on a lot of people's mind in a time like this, in a devastated moment for Jamaica. I have been watching a couple of press conferences on Instagram with the opposition leader and crew members. Also, I've been watching a couple of videos that they have placed on the media, on their platform, discrediting the movement of the current government. And we as the people, and I'm speaking on behalf of the people, we as the people do not need political standpoint right now. What we need is unity, to come together to work every possible way to get things done for the people. Now, my people, me, I go play a couple of videos with the opposition leader and the crew member making some statements, and then we're going to address them. So, me could dive down into it for a bit.
We saw after the Haitian earthquake, there was a rise in cholera that was brought in by relief workers. We don't know if relief workers are coming in with other diseases as well. And we have an incubator now of persons who are living outdoors. They're prone to respiratory conditions, and they are prone to gastroenteritis as well as mosquito-borne diseases.
I have proposed to the Prime Minister from last week, Wednesday, that he should establish a broad-based task force to be given the responsibility of governance oversight over the relief effort, the relief coming in, how it is dealt with, how it is distributed, not to manage that process on a day-to-day basis, but to provide oversight to those who are managing it. So there's some accountability for how it's done, and that accountability is being held by a broad-based group that can enjoy the support and confidence of the whole society, especially those who are suffering terribly now and no doubt fear that they may not be treated fairly, or they may be ignored or overlooked in the response of the state to the crisis. I also think there needs to be a clear command structure for the actual day-to-day management of the response to the relief. And that should be led, in my opinion, by professionals in disaster management, not by politicians who do not know the ins and outs of responding to a disaster of this magnitude. And we should not be shy of seeking international support and help from persons who have career expertise and experience in this regard. Thirdly, we're going to need a Marshall Plan, a well-funded, broad-based plan for the rebuilding and reconstruction of large swathes of Jamaica which have been ravaged by this hurricane. That plan cannot be developed today, but it is vital that we prepare such a plan and that it have the inputs of persons who have the necessary skills and experience and knowledge to design a comprehensive, workable plan that can be executed efficiently and that can have the confidence of our international partners who we are going to rely on heavily to provide the financial support for this. And in terms of more specific recommendations now, I have asked the Prime Minister to make an additional allocation of resources to members of Parliament so that they can mobilize communities and contractors to help with the cleaning up of communities that are currently in a state of devastation, clearing roads where necessary, cutting trees and the like. Until that allocation is made, members of Parliament are unable to respond to the needs of the people unless they happen to have some personal resources or access to dealing with it outside of the public system, and many do not have that. I would also say that the process of engaging contractors to do that kind of work should be simplified and made easy for members of Parliament, especially in those areas where there's very limited connectivity and where following the normal bureaucratic processes that are required would be very challenging or impossible for members of Parliament. If contractors have a TRN, whatever the allocation is, there should be invoices, and those invoices can be submitted, but the work should be able to begin. Secondly, we note and agree with the decision to suspend the imposition of import duties and import GCT on disaster relief items coming into Jamaica. However, we believe that the period for which this has been announced is too short, because the time it takes to mobilize funding and make the necessary procurement abroad, the logistics, etc., of getting it shipped to points on land where they can then be shipped or flown to Jamaica takes some time. And to have it cut off by the end of this month is too short. And it's also not clear from the announcement that was made whether goods in transit to Jamaica will get the benefit, even if they haven't landed here at the time of the expiry of the window.
To enter the constituency, traditionally we use 5 different routes. We have only been able to clear one route into South St. James, and that is through Long Hill to Anchovy Mafuta, Barnet Bush to take you up to Garland's Moko Maroon Town, or you go right at Fern, Plum, Cambridge to go as far as you can until you're stopped by downed power lines, poles, landslides, and rivers. Yes, the 7 Rivers has taken the road we have in the Bickerstead Copperwood plantation area. We still have communities that are marooned and do not have access to food. And when I say no access to food, what I mean is that when we advised them to go to a shelter like the shelter at Cambridge High School, we told them that we were advised by the government that food would come after the storm, which was a mistake. because some went in from as early as Monday of last week and they have not had food up till now. We were able to send a little boat across, a little blow-up boat across the roadway to get to some, and they got food for one night because the boat couldn't hold much more. We have seen the helicopters flying in the sky above us in South St. James, but most times they're going to St. Elizabeth or Westmoreland. They're going to the sexy places where disaster grief is big profit and big public relations opportunities. In South St. James, we're farmers, we're humble people, we don't like to beg. But I'm appealing on our behalf because we need urgently food for our people who are marooned in places like Katadupa, in Jungle, in Awful Gully. We're calling for help for people in Retrieve, where we join Eastern Westmoreland, because they were only able to get their dead out of the community just 2 days ago. We're asking to have the health authorities come in because the cows are still floating, the goats are still floating.
Okay, so on a hear what is what, right? Now, it's so ridiculous for statement like these to be putting out to the public, when in reality, the opposition leader know the facts of how things operate. And if you listen to him very carefully, when he may even make the statement that the government have to make sure that they assess things right before they make any rational decision. And even though he knows this and he made this statement, they're still pushing for the government to make a rush to make decision. Now, he's also calling on the government to issue every single member of parliament $50 million, right? Which in reality, you cannot issue every single member $50 million. You can't. Because there are parishes that did not suffer critical damage as St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and those places, right? We have to think carefully before we make any decision, before we split any money up. Because in reality, there are some parishes that can see probably $20 million or $30 million, while some would get an increase of $70 million. I'm just showing out some numbers out there, right? When you look at the severe damage that took place in a lot of these places like Black River and those places, they need more attention than Portland, than St. Thomas, than Kingston, than Ocho Rios or St. Mary. They need more attention. They need more funding. Now, I heard they're crying on the airlift, which I see a lot of people talking about why they haven't airlift supplies in and all of these things. There are airlift that have been dropping in to communities that vehicle cannot attend to. And we have seen Dayton Campbell in association with those airlift. And I'm going to show you that video so you guys can actually see for yourself and see how corrupt and neglectful these people can be to the people. Now, check this video out.
We got a word of an asset that we could utilize. We had food kits that we wanted to move, and so
All right. So now see that, right? That's Dayton Campbell assisting with the earlift that they have not been talking about, that they're getting earlift. So let me ask this, Dayton Campbell, because I heard your people have been crying to you. All those supplies that comes in, why haven't you take the necessary time out to make sure that those packages are reaching to your constituency? When you are there in your own constituency, watching those supply dropped off, why aren't you addressing your people and let them know, hey, the packages are coming in, but we're putting in plans to get to you, the people? Why come out and trying to bash the government that they're not moving efficiently? I don't get it. Have you guys keep thinking in your mind that the election is still up and running? Because this look like a political campaign to me. That's what it looks like. And we don't need that right now. We don't need it. The fact that you guys have the privilege to call on other people to help, to contribute, which I have not seen any PNP member decided that, hey, we're going to try to raise funds for the people of Jamaica. I have not seen any of you guys make a post of where the people can actually contribute or donate. I have not seen it. So why come out now and criticizing all of a sudden when you see a bunch of funding coming in, a bunch of donation coming in, all of a sudden now it's all about the money, the money, the money. The government have been working to clear the main roads. And you guys have to understand, if the main roads are not being cleared, how can you get the trucks to come in, to clean up, to restore lights? How can you get them to come in to do the work? The people that are coming down to help to clear these roads, how can they get to enter if they can't get their equipment in? The main roads got to be cleared for them to be able to access to the non-main roads. And you guys have to understand this. It's common sense. You guys have to pay attention and don't be led astray. It's not the time for this. It's not. We need all hands on deck. I heard one of the member stated that the government have put a pause on her to use private contractors to clear the roads and all of these things. They are proper channels. And if the government came out to assist certain things, that means they have to make sure that they plan how they're going to get back the people on track and get the country back on track and get the parish back on track. You can't just go there and say, all right, clear. You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. And they are the government, so they have to sit down as the government to really put these things into perspective. They can't just get up and make rational decision. And the same thing would have taken place if you guys were in government. Or maybe it would have taken a different toll. Because based on what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing, it seems like you guys would have just rationed out the money. No, I heard you guys are saying that it's only labor rights are getting the benefit. And I listened to you, Mark Golden, when you made that statement that it can't be one-sided contribution where people from the government side is getting all the benefit, all the supplies. That's not true. Stop it. Stop it. Every single person is getting aid. You got so many people are contributing privately and they're doing their own thing privately to give back to the people. Why are you guys out there helping? Why? Why is it so important for you to run with your team to do press conference when you could have taken that time out to go out to assist to issues, foods, and supply to the people? No, but it's more important for you to come and criticize the government for doing their job. People of Jamaica, please, may I beg you, be patient. The government is working. Be patient. Me know it hard, me know it difficult. But there's only one right way to get things done. We can't rush. Because if we rush and it messed up, you guys still going to criticize and say the government should have think this through. Allow the government to work efficiently. Allow the rescue team to come in. They are pitching their tent. They're making ways. They're working days and nights. And they're clearing step by step. Remember, we need all hands on deck. And a lot of you as men and women can help. You can help. For us to get to you guys, you can help. Start weed out the machete them. Because I see a lot of you guys with machete. Start weed out the power saw them because I see a lot of you guys with power saw. Right? And start cutting. Help. Don't sit down and say, hey, we are waiting on everybody to come in and do the work for us. No, start the help too.